Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. Every episode is an invitation, a reminder that business and life isn't just about profit, it's about purpose. It's about showing up with a servant's heart in every deal, every decision, every day. Today's guest is going to light you up like a firecracker. 4th of July is coming, so it's apropos. That's the right word. Yes, it is. You'll be motivated, you'll be challenged, and most importantly, you'll walk away with the tools that inspire action both in your life and in the lives of others. With that being said, impact. You have a business, you're a founder, you're president, CEO, board, doesn't matter. What's one of the important things in it? It's your systems. Systems fail, business fails. I've seen it. I've talked to people. Got an expert on systems and how he really make an impact. Let's welcome to the show today. John, welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Oh, I'm so excited. And quick shout out to why John's on here. We just got named top 20 small business marketing podcast. I want to thank you guests and you audience for making this happen. I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Systems. Why the heck are they so important? Why do companies fail when they don't do it right?
Yeah, so there's actually a company in the last, year and a half that I think is a perfect example, because we probably always think that, these big Fortune 500 companies have it nailed down, right? They wouldn't be where they are. They wouldn't be selling computers, cars, whatever, if they didn't have their systems down. Well, Fisker, through his bankruptcy, kind of showcased why processes and procedures are so important. They made a lot of failures, right? I'm not trying to say it was one thing, but something reading about Fisker's problems early on in leading to bankruptcy that really stood out to me was the fact that they were shipping cars to people before collecting money. This wasn't intentional. They were shipping cars to people before collecting money, which they had, I think, tens of millions of dollars in receivables that should have been collected prior to ever shipping the vehicles out. So that's a process problem, right? There should be a contract to accounting to delivery. There should be a process and checks and balances that happen in this. And if a company selling $60,000 vehicles can make this mistake, what are other people missing, right? Like, I'm working with a startup right now that their accounting process is everyone touches everything, which means no one does anything with it. So the processes and how we do it are vitally important. And in my book, I talk about operational excellence. And what I define by that is the organization's ability to deliver the intended results as quickly, efficiently, as effectively as possible.
What a story. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So let's look at it this way. I know you work with large companies, but let's look at a small, medium-sized business. They're like, oh, I'm small. My systems aren't that important. Are they probably more important?
Yeah, so I actually work with more small businesses than I do the large ones. So nonprofits, startups, small businesses is really where my bread and butter is. So I think it's absolutely more important, right? Because the smaller the organization, the more you have to do with less resources. Less time, less money, less people. In a small business, you don't have a place to hide, right? Like you got to be doing your job and you got to be doing it efficiently and effectively, where you can probably hide a little bit in a bigger business. And so how we do things, the process we take in delivering the results, it makes a huge difference between how scalable we are, how profitable we are, as well as how happy both our employees and our customers are.
So you're talking about systems. I've never thought about this. I've talked to a lot of system guys. This is groundbreaking. So my systems in my small business, when they're on point and you've got me rocking and rolling, the culture gets better.
100%. Yeah, because when the systems aren't good, even both from an external and internal standpoint, people get frustrated, right? If again, working with this startup I'm working with right now, every invoice that this company receives goes to 7 people right off the bat. Before anyone looks at it or touches it, does anything with it, it goes to 7 people, right? That is sometimes 10, 12 emails a day that these people are getting that they're immediately just shoveling into a folder, not even looking at it, right? Those type of things are like, man, here's another, like, why do I have to get this email? Why am I on this chain? Why am I in this meeting? All of these things go to someone's ability to spend more time on their actual job, to be able to do things in a more efficient and effective way instead of this kind of ad hoc process that so many fall into when you don't have the right systems and processes set up.
So, John, what do you do? Let's use that great story, fantastic story. I'm learning so much. That's why I love hosting shows. So, what are you going to do? I don't know if you can tell us to solve that problem.
Sure. I mean, so what I'm doing with this client, I was brought in as a fractional COO for this one, so it's a little different than what we've been doing lately with our audit process because they had someone leave abruptly. But this one, I've been was hired to keep the trains on the tracks and look out for efficiencies. And what I quickly realized was, in order to keep the trains on the tracks, we had to change our process procedures. Like the problems that exist, people getting double paid, all of these type of things weren't a product of negligence by employee, but the lack of process procedures to correct or find these mistakes. And so what I'm going through is we're rechanging how the accounting works, what the process procedures are, getting away from one platform and moving into another that's going to automate this process, limit who has to see things when, where, and why. We're going to dive into their legal processes and procedures, meaning how contracts are drafted and the templates we use, all that type of stuff, as well as looking at the HR. How are we onboarding? How are we documenting PTO? How are we processing reimbursement for expenses? All of these things go directly to how the business is being run, how efficient it's being run, as well as what the employee, vendor, and customer relationship all looks like.
So, what they don't know, and they're failing.
Yeah.
And you can
100%.
come in and make them know. So, that phrase, it's going to probably make you laugh, but that phrase I hear all the time. It's the way we've been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah. If I'm talking to a prospective client and they use that phrase and they're okay with that phrase, they're not a client for me. Like I hear it all the time. We've been doing the same thing for 10 years and it's working just fine. It is for now. My guess is it's not entirely working for you, but you're willing to accept certain elements of decline over the years, right? It's family business, got handed down, whatever it is. But I work with people who say, hey, look, either I don't know what I don't know, or we're doing a good job, but something's off and I don't know what that is. Or we want to grow. We want to go from 10 million to 20 million. We want to go from 20 to 30. We want to make sure we have the right operational foundation to grow from. Those are the clients that we work with.
Scaling is so big and it's so many parts of this, but I love your servant's heart. And I was going to point this out, what he said. He said, if you tell me we've been doing this for 10 years, I won't work with you. Audience, this guy gets it because you're not serving them. They're not serving you. Why put a square hole or a round peg in a square hole? It never works.
Right.
It just causes more frustration. So thank you for pointing that out. Now that I know you work with nonprofits, I love that. But what a challenge with business, because it's all about passion. I've got this Save the Whales nonprofit, but my HR, my systems, my sales, and all that is like kind of a mess. Yeah. What do you do when you come in and help nonprofits?
Yes, so that's a very interesting dichotomy. So how the nonprofits fits in is my first started my career. I worked for a legal organization. I was a member of in law school, so it started a career in association management. But the second association I worked for was a tech trade association that was a startup that worked with startups, and so I kind of had this double immersion in the startup world. So that's how the nonprofit, the startup, and small business all comes together. And it's interesting you point that out because too often the nonprofits focus solely on the mission and ignore profit and cash flow and all of these things. And in the association world, nonprofit world, people hate when I say things like this, but I believe it's true and they should listen. The minute you have employees, the minute you have rent, the minute you have obligations financially to other people, it cannot just be about the mission. It has to be about creating a successful business that achieves that mission. Otherwise, just go back to volunteer. But the minute you have these obligations, and so a lot of times, both business and nonprofits, I'd say, fall into the similar traps of operations tends to be the internal operation pieces tends to be the last place they focus, which means one of
Mm.
two things happen. It falls on the CEO who doesn't know what they're doing, or it falls on the lowest person on the totem pole, which is the EA office manager who has the time to do these things and probably even the skill, but doesn't have the experience to be handling this high level of duties.
Yeah, I like that because don't wear all the hats. I know
Yeah.
nonprofits, that's the problem. Steve Ramona starts a nonprofit. I'll just do everything to save money. You're
Yeah.
actually costing yourself more money. And if I don't hire a guy, wonderful guy like you to do that. It's got this phrase that's I've been reading all morning and late to the podcast, but I want to ask curiosity driven leadership. You told me curiosity was your superpower. Talk about this leadership style.
Yeah. So curiosity as my superpower wasn't immediately apparent to me. But once it kind of was pitched to me, I heard two people told me that was my superpower over almost a decade apart, and I didn't really listen to the second person. But when I started diving into that, I saw how curiosity played a role. Even me as a child in my education and then into my career. And what curiosity leadership is about is what I write about in the book is it requires three shifts: a shift in mindset from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, challenging the status quo, being willing to ask questions, thinking outside the box. Then moving to the operational excellence, which is what I defined earlier, but that's about like again challenging the status quo, not doing things because we've done it for 10 years or 100 years, whatever it may be, but constantly looking at what we're doing, why we're doing it, and making sure it's the best way forward. And the last part of it is creating a curious culture. And that is, unless you're the lead singer of a one person band, you have to bring the team along with you, right? Like there is no if, ands, or buts about it. Like you cannot create a multi-million dollar company and do everything yourself. And so you got to find ways to bring the team on. And what a curious culture is about is creating that atmosphere where everyone in the organization, because we all have different perspectives and insights into what we do and how we do it and whether or not it's effective, allowing that place that truly allows everyone to push back, to speak out, to bring ideas to the table and know that that's respected and heard, and that's not a avenue for being written up or putting on a pip, but knowing that you are creating this atmosphere that really fosters that type of environment.
Transparency and empathy is missing in business, and you just nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got audience. I hope you're taking notes. I've got notes here because that's $1 million tip, probably a $10 million tip as you scale and grow. God, this is wonderful. You're incredible.
Yeah.
Book. Tell me about the title of the book and what's the mission with the book?
Sure. The Curious Leader is all about trying to drive innovation, engage teams, and bring about change, right? That's the whole point of being a curious leader. So I'm on a mission to spread that, right? To help people, I guess, kind of step back here. One of the things that happens with leaders is because we're human beings and our organizations are run by leaders who are human beings. And so we fall into human being traps, which is we fall into comfort. We fall into habits. We're subject to fear. All of these things are very natural elements of psychology, evolution, et cetera, and they all exist for a very, very important reason. However, when it comes to innovation, growth, and change, they're the enemy. And the curious leader components is what gives you the mechanisms to start breaking that down and moving beyond those through those three shifts. And so I'm on a mission to inspire people to be more curious about their lives, about their businesses, about how their businesses are run, and truly inspiring people to take meaningful action towards their intended results.
I love you said inspire a couple times. It's exactly what you're doing. So here's the big question. Somebody listening, I'm going to ask if I had a company. I don't have staff right now. I'm made down the road. So how do we foster curiosity amongst our whole company and our employees, our staff?
Yeah, so anytime you're changing culture, it takes time, right? One of the most important things is I've worked with these type of companies, and I know they exist where someone comes in to be a consultant to change the culture of organization, and what always happens is a team of employees forms a committee, defines what that culture is going to be. I disagree with that. I believe that the person at the top has to define what the culture is and be top bottom. Now, by saying that, I don't see this as a hierarchy control thing. I see this as it has to be consistent. And if the top doesn't buy into what that culture is trying to be built, then the rest is going to fall apart. So I believe it has to start at the top, but it has to bring down everyone else. And so how do you instill this curious culture is there's some really simple, easy tasks, right? One is allow questions, allow pushback. One of the key ways to do that is to speak last. This is also something that Simon Sinek speaks on. And the thing behind this is, when there's a meeting discussing an event or a product launch or something, and things went well, it didn't go well, whatever it is, and the CEO or the person who runs that meeting talks first, they give you the rundown of what they think happened. And then they say, let me know your thoughts. What just happened? You brought that entire discussion your direction. Now, you may have some people that speak out a little bit, but they're going to soften it. Unless you have this culture already built that allows you to, disagree with the CEO or disagree with your manager, you just brought that entire discussion your way. So instead, say, hey, I want to hear from you guys. I want your honest feedback. This is a safe room. I want honest, open opinions about what just happened. And one of the best ways to allow for that to really happen on the back end is getting to know your staff. And I mean more than just at the pizza party, at the water cooler, but having these one-on-ones where you truly learn what makes them excited about coming to work, what winds their clock, what they want to do in their career, and asking them these small things like, what do you see that's wrong in this company? What do you see wrong in your position? What can we do for you in your position to make it better, to make you have more results? Have these intimate one-on-one conversations that allow that to foster there first, and people are going to be a lot more open to having those conversations in the bigger audience.
So it sounds like it's a skill set you can learn.
Yes.
And anybody can do this.
Yes. And it's actually backed up by some research by Google. The backbone of this curious culture is psychological safety. So Google was trying to figure out what made teams the most performing, right? What made them the best? And they did interviews and surveys, and they had their hypothesis of diversity, education, skill set, whatever. What they determined was psychological safety, which is the backbone of the curious culture, which is creating that environment that allows people to share ideas, point out problems, adapt on the go, and allowing that team to work together to solve problems.
Yeah, that's amazing because, well, tell us, how's curiosity solve problems? Because we all want to solve problems.
Yeah. Well, the first of all is, I think we all say we want to solve problems, but rarely do we take the steps to do that, right? And the first step is asking questions, right? Like, again, we are creatures of habit. I'm a creature of habit in my personal life, not so much on the business front, but we're creatures of habit to where we just accept what we do. The first step of really making change and creating innovation is daring to ask the right questions. A great example of that, Steve Jobs. And to be honest with you, I don't know if this story is true or not, but I've read this a few times. So, Steve Jobs was being brought prototype after prototype of phones when they were launching the very first iPhone. And he kept looking at this like, this isn't right, but couldn't pinpoint what was wrong. And then finally he realized and asked a question: why do all of these prototypes have a keyboard at the bottom? Why does there need to be a physical keyboard? Because that's what it had been for a decade, right? We Blackberries, Nokias, whatever it was, there was a keyboard at the bottom of the screen. So that's what everyone was bringing him. It wasn't until he was willing to ask the question, why does it have to be physical, that sparked the ideas for other people, like, how do we create this without a physical keyboard? And that is the backbone now of every type of cell phone we have today. There are a few exceptions, but he was willing to ask the question, right? And I think asking the questions, challenging the status quo, is often missed in our leadership, in our teams, and that is the best place to start.
Top business guy in the world. Everybody knows Steve Jobs' name because of Apple. Yep. If he can ask questions, me and you audience, why not ask questions? And I love that because it opens up yep. The ability for the staff to have empowerment. They're empowered because he asked his staff. I mean, he was an interesting guy. We'll just leave it at that. Yep. For him to ask that question and open the door for them to go, didn't think about that. Well, What a great story. My
Yeah, yeah,
gosh.
yeah. I mean, by him going to ask the questions, it allows his team to think outside the box, right? Again, you're right. He was interesting when it comes to culture and leadership and management, but there were some aspects of him that just invited innovation because he was willing to question. And if he's allowed to question the norms and the status quo and way things have always been done in this industry, it allowed his staff to explore that much more.
Man, you're so aligned. You're a brother from another mother. I talk about questions. I mean, what am I doing here? I'm asking you questions. We're learning more about you. Incredible stuff. Great info. And Steve Jobs could have gone, staff, no more keyboards. We're going to put it right on the screen. Sorry, that's the way it's going to be. It probably would have got done. But what a lesson. It just allows them, like him or not, they stayed there for a long time, a lot of his top people, because he did something right. And we'll leave it at that. We've come to the close to the end here. Curiosity and in leadership. What does the future look like in the next 2 to 3 years in companies with curiosity?
Yeah, so as I have dove into the curiosity world when it comes to leadership, I now see the word everywhere. Everywhere I look, I see curiosity, and we're actually doing a campaign right now where we're reaching out to companies that have curiosity in their mission and value statement, that have curiosity listed in this and that, right? So we're starting to really see that. We're diving in. I wouldn't say we're at a point where we're doing research yet, but we're noticing more and more that curiosity is something to behold. I actually had a company reach out to me. I do keynote speaking as well as curious leader workshops, kind of the executive boardroom style, and had a company reach out to me and said, "Hey, we just launched curiosity as a core value. What value can you bring to us, to talk to our sales team, to talk to our leadership team, et cetera?" And so we're starting to see it take hold, because when people talk about innovation, change, culture, values, all of these elements, and curiosity to me is the thing that can bring that all together. Everything is kind of overlaps one another with those leadership shifts that require for curious leadership, and it's really that gateway to, if you open up your leadership and your teams to curiosity, all of those elements are going to mold together in a very natural way if you can truly drive curiosity in your organization.
It's exciting. Exciting times here next 2 to 3. And tech and AI and all. We're not going to get into that. We'll make a difference with all that too. Let's end with a very fun question. So I've got a table at a restaurant reserved for you. It's a table of 4. You can sit in one of the chairs. So you've got 3 empty chairs. Who would you invite, whether they're dead or alive? And what food would you order for the table?
So I'd invite my wife, very important person in my life. I'd invite my son, and to not make it so cheesy. There's a guy out there right now I would love to meet. I've been a fan of his before he was famous. Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm a big fan of his message. I believe he does business influencing different than a lot of the other gurus out there, in how he talks to people, how he talks about people, the terminology he uses to describe people. I think he's an inspirational leader, and he's absolutely someone I'd love to meet. What we'd eat, I love pizza. Pizza is my favorite food, so let's just go with pizza.
Fucking thing. And John, amazing enough, we're so aligned. This morning I was listening to his podcast. Okay. And you're right. I follow that guy everywhere. It's one of the things I do to build myself up. You're an absolute blessing, what you're doing. Yeah, it's a job. I mean, it's your business, but you're doing it from a servant's heart, and you're successful, and you're helping the small business, medium-sized business to grow. I know people listening are going, "This guy's a rock star. How can I get a hold of him?" So how can they find you?
Well, the best way is to go to my consulting website is think-lateral.com for lateral solutions. Also, my personal brand page is John Bassford. It's John without an H, Jon. Bassford is like a bass fish in a Ford car. Pretty simple. And we do have a giveaway, if especially for people in the U.S. here. If you text the word chapter to 33777, we'll send you a PDF of the first chapter of The Curious Leader. Kind of wet your beak a little bit, see if it's something you're interested in purchasing. But if you text chapter to 33777, we will send you the first chapter of the book via PDF, via email, and we also can connect you that way as well.
Serving hard, keep serving. You see that? Even at the end, he has to keep serving. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. God bless.